From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, three friends just out for a stroll, but their story is going viral. Work continues to bring in the harvest, even though Mother Nature has other plans.
We will run it because, as far as I know, the snowman's still coming.
And we put the wraps on another AgDay harvest tour.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. U.S. rice will soon have a new market overseas. The U.S. Trade Representative announcing an agreement with South Korea. Now, under the plan, South Korea will open its markets for more than 132,000 tons of U.S. rice every year. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer saying in a statement, quote, "This agreement gives our farmers the largest volume of guaranteed market access for rice in Korea that the United States has ever enjoyed," end quote. The deal is valued at $110 million for the U.S. And more movement on the trade front. Reuters reporting Japan's lower house of parliament has approved the limited trade deal President Trump and Prime Minister Abe agreed to in September. It was formally signed in October. Now, the deals on agriculture and digital trade cover about $55 billion worth of goods between the world's largest and third biggest economies. Specifically, the deal will provide a staged reduction of Japanese tariffs for more than $2 billion worth of U.S. beef and pork. And the deal must now be approved by Japan's upper house of parliament. And what about the new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement? Soybean farmers are hoping Congress will get it approved by the end of the year. In an effort to do that, members of the American Soybean Association converged on Capitol Hill on Tuesday. They're requesting Congress continue to move forward on getting the trade pact approved before the end of the year. The association saying it brought in leaders from throughout the nation's 30 soybean-producing states to press for passage. Another day brings another shift in moods about a possible Phase 1 trade deal with China. CNBC reporting the mood in Beijing right now is pessimistic due to President Trump's reluctance to roll back tariffs, which China believes the U.S. had agreed to do. Farm Journal Washington correspondent Jim Wiesmeyer saying Phase 1 talks continue to focus on getting China to commit to a specific dollar amount when it comes to purchasing U.S. farm products. Well, a New York Times article citing experts saying, quote, "The president's unpredictability and ongoing demands of China are complicating an end to the long-running dispute," end quote. The case of two missing ranchers believed murdered has taken another strange twist. Nebraska police say human remains found in a stock trailer could be those of at least one of the brothers. An investigator says a rancher near Hershey, Nebraska found the remains mixed with dirt in a plastic tub inside the trailer he recently bought in Missouri. 25-year-old Garland Nelson of Missouri is charged with first-degree murder in the deaths of Nick and Justin Diemel of Wisconsin. Now, relatives say the brothers traveled to Nelson's farm to collect on a $250,000 debt. Missouri authorities confirm the remains could belong to one of the brothers. Justice Department officials are charging 29 people in the Florida Panhandle over alleged misuse of federal farm money. Among those being charged are a former county clerk of the court, a former law enforcement officer, and a Farm Service Agency director. WJHG reports investigators uncovered about $373,000 in taxpayer money misused as part of the scheme. The USDA funding was intended for a livestock program to aid cattle farmers whose lands were hit by drought.
The I-80 Harvest Tour is brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
The historically late harvest is causing more problems, not just for farmers, but livestock producers. AgDay National reporter Betsy Gibbon updates us on why in this final stop along the I-80 Harvest Tour.
It's a comment heard across the Midwest. The stress of weather woes this harvest.
We will run it because, as far as I know, the snowman's still coming, so.
The problems of a late and snowy fall is also an impact to livestock producers and those who need dry fields and dry corn stalks.
Normally I bale about 700 of these corn stalk bales, and I have 300 today.
The lack of forage is not a new problem for producers like John Maxwell at Cinnamon Ridge Farms in Donahue, Iowa. He had winter kill to his alfalfa already last year, not including the problems a wet spring brought too.
We had total kill out on any alfalfa that was more than 1 year old in the stand. The forages have been very short and less than abundant.
It's not just an issue in Iowa. A lot of forage in the Midwest, like alfalfa, was not cut until June because it was so wet in the Corn Belt during spring. It reduced both quality and quantity of feed.
And I would say that in the course of approximately 4 decades, this is probably one of the more crisis events that I have experienced that's widespread. We have not seen a spring quite like 2019 ever that is, for many, many people, altered the harvest schedules to the point that we have such low quality forage.
The issue is more than buying forage. Transportation is not cheap, and forage is not exactly affordable.
Because prices are extremely high priced now, probably record setting.
When you go to an auction, you're going to be swearing that there's gold in the middle of that hay bale that you see in front of you because the prices that are going to have to be paid.
Johnson says producers need to make sure the forage they do get will be good enough for their livestock. That may include supplementing rations for each cow's needs. He encourages producers to test and talk to a nutritionist.
And so it's very, very important for the well-being of the livestock as they go through winter to think about sampling, testing, allocating, and balancing rations.
I'll tell you, a nutritionist is going to be worth its weight in gold.
As harvest slowly moves,
It's definitely been a different year.
producers want to put up more cornstalk bales, hope for less mud, the ground to dry up, and a wish snow will wait. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. Sugar production is also suffering right now due to wet and snowy weather, and it's affecting the sugar beet and sugarcane crops. The latest WASDE report saying sugar production was projected to decline by 572,000 short tons raw value from the previous month. But the USDA says it will take action to make sure there is an adequate supply of sugar. USDA saying it intends to make an announcement by December 10th as to how much and where it will get the additional sugar. Harvest 2019 just seems to be dragging on and on, doesn't it? Well, it's leaving everyone pretty tired, as meteorologist Kimberly Newman shows us in today's crop comments.
Clinton, it certainly has been a long harvest season, and this picture really shows what many in farm country are dealing with. Andy Bolfer of Northern Illinois sharing this picture on Twitter of his son catching a few Z's while the combine rolls. Andy says he's trying to finally get the 2019 season over and done with, saying everyone is exhausted. And he says the rain will knock him out of harvesting shortly. Speaking of rain, let's take a look at where those showers have the best chance of falling in the next 24 hours. Certainly in the desert Southwest, we'll pick up a little additional rain. As we move forward through your Wednesday, overnight and into Thursday morning, showers will likely fall along the Great Lakes as well. I'll have your full forecast coming up in just a bit.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
Wheat has seen a more positive look recently. We look into what's driving the market for it right now. That's analysis coming up. And later, the story behind this viral photo and 3 friends who had a day out on a Kansas road. A man is suing Burger King. He claims the fast food chain contaminates its meatless Impossible Whoppers by cooking them on the same grill as regular meat patties. The lawsuit was filed in Miami federal court. The suit accuses Burger King of false advertising. It also seeks an injunction that would require the restaurant to plainly disclose Impossible Whoppers and regular burgers are cooked on the same grill. Right now, Burger King is not commenting. Corn prices rebounded from the 7-week low on Tuesday, with USDA reporting 191,000 metric tons of corn for delivery to unknown destinations. That follows a 132,000 metric ton sale on Monday, also to unknown destinations. Here's an update from the CME.
This is Ted Seifert from Zaner Ag Hedge coming to you from the CME floor here on a Tuesday, and we are trying to be higher across the board in the grain complex here today. However, soybeans being the stick in the mud. The wheat really wants to be the strength, and wheat in the last 2 days has found some pretty significant strength. We've gone from the lower end of the shallow downward trade channel that we've been in since the middle of October to now testing the high end. And, you know, technically speaking, if we can break out here above this today's high, we're going to probably see some follow through to the upside and possibly some new recent highs. So we're watching that very closely. Fundamentally speaking, we've got some weather issues kind of cropping up in some areas of the world, some of the major wheat producers of the world. So we'll be watching that closely. Australia in particular is an area of concern. So we'll see about that. As far as corn is concerned, really kind of following along with the wheat, trying to stay positive on the day. After yesterday's bigger down day, we've taken back a lot of yesterday's losses. And there too, we've gone from the bottom end of the shallow downward trade channel to the top end of the shallow trade channel. Soybeans really started the day strong, couldn't hold on to it. We had another Trump tweet saying that if we can't get a trade deal done with China soon, that he's going to start raising tariffs again. The beans don't like any of that, so we've come off our highs there. We'll see what happens. Obviously, we're waiting pins and needles to hear what happens with the trade deal, if we get one, if we don't, tariffs or no tariffs, so on and so forth. Watching South American weather very closely and also weather for wheat. So keep an eye on all that. This is Ted Seifert from Zaner Ag Hedge coming from the CME floor. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Jeff French, Top Third Ag Marketing, our guest today. Jeff, let's talk about this wheat market because a few days ago we saw a pretty sharp rally in wheat, although it did pull back a little bit. What's your take on where this wheat market sits?
Well, wheat has been beaten up here for a long time. It's been one of the favorite things that funds have just sold relentlessly. But we've seen it bottom. We've seen a nice little, 40 to 60 cent rally depending on what wheat you're looking at. And this week we did see the Kansas City post a 3-week high, get through some technical resistance. I really want to see that December close above 450. That's a trend line that goes back to when the highs were scored last summer. So if we can get a close above 450, this stuff could get a really good rally here.
Some of that weather driven with these cold temperatures early in the season, right?
Oh, absolutely. And when you have the funds being short as they are, and it's estimated they're short about 35 to 40,000 contracts right now, why would you want to be short? I mean, they've already beaten this market up awfully good, and with the weather that potentially, we're not going to know for a while, but that potentially could have some damage to it. Why would you want to be short? So they're obviously buying back those contracts here this week.
As we look at the contracts and we look at the board and the spread between Kansas City and Chicago, that's been something a lot of traders like yourself have been watching as an indicator here. What do we see there? Yeah, well, it's gone from record wide here about a month ago. I mean, you had Kansas City $1 below Chicago, where typically Kansas City's 20, 30 cents over Chicago. It got to $1 wide. That's all-time record wide. But here in the last about 4 weeks, it's gained about 20, 25 cents. So it's starting to shift. So if you are selling into this rally, we're definitely advising you to re-own calls, but re-own it into the Kansas City wheat, because if that spread does unwind, and we do think it will eventually, the Kansas City is going to rally much sharply compared to the Chicago wheat. Will planted acres be supportive going into 2020, do you think? Well, they're at a 110-year low. I mean, that's been known for a while. It's a little bit supportive, but we really need to get our wheat competitive in the world market. Okay, all right. Well, good advice, good perspective. Appreciate it. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
For a special report on the grain markets, call toll-free at 877-TT-HEDGE. That's 877-884-3343. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Now, I'm meteorologist Kimberly Newman with a look at those changing patterns over the next couple of days. This jet stream is all over the place, folks, with a few separate diving troughs and cooler air masses that move right on into the northeast. Surprisingly, we don't see a lot of snow in the next 24 hours across the nation. Instead, the focus is on the southeast, where we're picking up some heavier rain. We do briefly have a zonal flow pattern, but that gets interrupted next week by another deep diving trough and cooler weather just before Thanksgiving. Meanwhile, let's take a look at those temperatures. Here we are this afternoon, temperatures in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. But as we head towards tomorrow morning, it really gets cooler, especially as you head up towards Bangor, Maine, into parts of Bismarck, and especially off towards the west coast, where you'd expect warmer wake-up temperatures. Instead, through the afternoon hours, it stays cool. We're talking Salt Lake City in the 30s and Carson City in the 20s tomorrow afternoon. You've got to head down towards Texas to really find that warmer air. Meanwhile, if we talk about wind speeds, with a complex of low pressure systems, we've got some incredibly strong winds along with those falling rain showers in parts of the desert Southwest. That takes us through the day today. As we move forward Wednesday evening into Thursday, winds die down for the most part, but we're still looking at least some winds pushing through parts of the northern plains and the Great Lakes. That is going to affect your forecast on Thursday, so we're keeping a close eye on that as those changes gradually take place. Here are those low pressure systems that I talked about. A cold front pushing through off the coast is eventually going to bring that rain inward, so it's moving a little farther east day by day, but it is moving incredibly slowly. That training rain is going to keep a lot of folks out of the crops and certainly finishing off harvesting maybe a little earlier than planned. However, we've got more rain pushing through the midsection of the nation, and this low pressure system then catches a wave and rides it all the way up into the Great Lakes. That will bring rain to the Great Lakes region as we head through Thursday morning, an area that at this time of year is expecting to see snow instead of rain. This is all going to travel farther east with this high pressure system keeping dry conditions in the southeast. Meanwhile, here's what we're looking at in terms of snow. A couple of light snowflakes across the border from Canada into parts of Minnesota, of course northern Michigan. Everyone else though is staying pretty much snow free. Here's a look at what's happening in your neck of the woods. Fall River, Massachusetts. Light rain and a cool breeze, a high of 42. International Falls, Minnesota. Snow, ice, and freezing rain. And if we take a look at Falls Church, Virginia, mostly sunny, gusty winds with a high of 51.
When we come back, a conversation about pig welfare and a new challenge in the battle against African swine fever in China. China continuing to fight African swine fever and now illegal ASF vaccines. Reuters reporting China's agriculture ministry says it will launch an investigation into the illegal production, sale, and use of ASF vaccines in the country. No country has yet approved a vaccine for the deadly hog disease, although several institutes around the world are trying to develop one. And it was a record crowd attending the Pig Welfare Symposium last week. The 300-plus attendees included pig farmers, social scientists, animal welfare experts, and pork industry leaders. The goal was to create a forum for all stakeholders to share ideas and learn about pig welfare-related issues.
We need to be leaning into those animal welfare conversations more, because the people who know the most about pig welfare are the pig farmers who care for those pigs every day. And we need to become more comfortable sharing our story and engaging in those conversations, because we're doing the right things, and we just need to help people understand what goes on at our farm every day. One of the things that I thought was interesting was the discussion around precision livestock farming and different things that we can do from a technology standpoint, because ultimately it comes down to the care of each individual pig. And so technology and science is allowing us to fine-tune that and to get more precise in how we manage each pig's care.
On the topic of animal welfare, no charges will be filed against operators of an Indiana pig farm after accusations of animal abuse by the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Indiana State Police investigated accusations of abuse at East Fork Farms outside of Brownstown, Indiana. That's in the southern part of the state. State police say 2 different inspections by 2 vets found no evidence of abuse. In fact, police say the graphic footage shared by PETA may have actually been staged and captured by hidden cameras planted at the facility following multiple break-ins. PETA says the footage was captured by an anonymous whistleblower who is also a government official. A strange moment caught along a road in Kansas. The story behind this picture and an unusual group of friends. Next. It sounds almost biblical or comical. A donkey, a camel, and a cow found wandering on a road in Kansas. Yes, it really happened. Police in Goddard, Kansas, near Wichita, sharing this picture on Facebook. Now, police posting, quote, "Does anyone know the owners of these 3 friends traveling together toward a northern star?" End quote. Going on to say if they couldn't locate the owner, they may be halfway toward a live nativity this Christmas season. Cue the funny Facebook comments, with one poster asking if their names were gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The owner was eventually found. Police say the animals belonged to someone who worked at a nearby wildlife park. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.